you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting teamsters1932.org/organize to start today. Labor unions built the middle class, and the middle class built America. That's the message from Teamsters Local 1932, a strong and successful labor union based in San Bernardino that represents over 14,000 hardworking people across the Inland Empire. The Teamsters are ready to help you organize for better pay, increased benefits, and improved working conditions. Reach out to Teamsters 1932 at teamsters1932.org/organize to speak with an organizer today.
One of the best ways to build a healthier local economy is by shopping locally. Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224. Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
Here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to. Lots to talk about. The Twitters today had Westboro Baptist Church trending. And I'm like, nothing good ever comes out of Westboro Baptist Church trending in any way, shape, or form. So immediately I know, without even looking, that there have got to be some idiots out protesting a funeral. Because if you remember Fred Phelps and his band of lunatics, anytime there was a funeral of someone in the LGBTQ community, they showed up with their signs. And you've seen all of it. I don't want to go through the insanity of that. And so today this was trending, and I'm going, please tell me they didn't dig Fred Phelps back up to drag him to something else. Well, no, they didn't. There was a pro-Palestinian protest demonstrating outside the memorial service for former First Lady Rosalind Carter. And you go, why? Why would you protest out in front of this woman's funeral? Why would you do this to the Carters? Understand, this is someone who has been the peace guy. This is someone who supported the two-state solution for decades. This is not the guy you protest and his wife. You just don't do that. And it shows the idiocy of some of these people. And it shows, again, what did you gain from that? Other than you getting people like me who have kind of stayed out of this issue, going, what is wrong with you? And it shows the coarseness of where we are. And look, it didn't get an awful lot of attention anywhere else other than the Twitter sphere. And I think most of it was negative, going, hey, stupid, this is not the place. But it goes to show that there's either we have lost our ever-loving flippin' minds, or there's some money behind this. No decent person would do that. Look, I get the passions, I get that, but not the place. Not the place. Also today, the thing that did get the news, and this is another thing that Have we lost our minds? Is no one paying attention? Evidently, Hunter Biden has said that he would be happy to come and testify before the House Oversight Committee, James Comer and his attack group, but it's going to have to be an open hearing. No behind closed doors, no smoke-filled rooms, none of that stuff. Comer losing his mind, going, no, you're going to have to, we'll see you behind closed doors. And what I find interesting is not that, look, that Comer and Republicans don't want Hunter Biden's words public, and that they want to go and be able to misrepresent anything that happens behind the closed door. Because, hey, it was behind closed doors. Who's to say what was actually said? Who's to say what really happened other than these people who have been known to, misrepresent things, lie? Maybe you remember the last bits. And this comes at an interesting time because you've got Hunter Biden and James Biden going, look, we'll testify, but you're not going to twist our words. You're not going to do what you do. Not going to do it. Now Comer says he expects Hunter Biden to be there on the 13th for a closed door meeting. And, as I'm reading through this, I went, okay, I'll go behind closed doors when Scott Pardon Me Perry and Jim Jordan honor their subpoenas to testify, to be deposed behind closed doors. Okay, we'll trade that. Now we know Scott Pardon Me Perry and Jim Jordan, they will not. And this is the hypocrisy of this. This is how just crazy this is bad. For months you've had these Republicans, Comer in particular, whining and complaining. Oh, they're not honoring subpoenas, and they've been making up all kinds of conspiracy theories that they have no proof over, none. But hey, they get to just keep throwing it out there. So Hunter Biden's like, I want to clear my name. So what did our right-wing media do today? And look, I understand Comer wanting to hide behind the smoke-filled backroom door and be able to make stuff up. I get that. Because this is nothing but a witch hunt in epic proportions. This is nothing but, hey, we got somebody who did something wrong. Let's pin everything on him. What I found interesting is as I was watching the F channel and the O channel and the Max channel and all of the crazy right-wing stuff, they were all defending Comer, saying this has to be behind closed doors. They were actually going, yes, we want the hearing behind closed doors. I'm going, who in media has ever said that? And it made me wonder who's writing the right-wing script right now, because all of them were on board. I did not find one right-wing commentator, tells you how in line they are, who said, no, nonsense. I want this in public. I want to see with my own two eyes that guy squirm in the seat. I want to hear his words. I want to see Jim Jordan tear him apart. I didn't see one person say that. And that's now I'm not saying no one did, but he's been quashed somewhere. But for me, it doesn't matter who. I want to see this stuff. That's the reason of having hearings, so that we, the people, can make the choice. But again, I come back to a lot of this stuff is all bread and circus. It's all American Idol and Cheetos, however you want to frame that. It's all entertainment. And it's all outrage. For instance, I got Utah Senator Mike Lee. Maybe the guy that was sentenced to 4 years in jail, this Kevin Lyons, for his activities on January 6th. Maybe he wasn't a federal agent disguising as a Trump supporter. Maybe he wasn't. Because if you listen to the right wing, it's all, they're all federal agents. It's all staged. And one after another, well, we don't really have any evidence. And I love Maria Bartiromo, because sometimes she trips over asking an actual question. And again, this comes back to, on that side, you don't ask the question unless it's scripted. She asked Michigan Republican Representative Lisa McClain, if anyone had actually seen any policy changes that Joe Biden made with regards to China for the payback that they claim he got. Because the argument is that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, the big guy, made millions of dollars, and Joe Biden changed policies specifically to get what Hunter was selling. And this McClain, said, no, the short answer is no. Because there's nothing. But they can't tell you there's nothing because they need the outrage. They need the daily outrage. This is it. This is today's outrage. Hunter Biden won't testify behind closed doors. Find me one American who's going to go, no, I want him to testify behind closed doors. Find one outside of the right-wing outrage machine who got their marching orders today. This is me going, we're in a weird moment, folks. We're in a very strange time where it's not about truth. It's not about getting facts. It's about playing the game. It's about engaging in the outrage of the day and the things we should be outraged at. Well, we're not. I've been saying for a while, we should be fighting for things that make our lives better. And we should stop fighting over things that are nonsense. This whole thing that the Republicans have dreamt up, because this is all payback for Trump's impeachments. Understand that. This is all payback. And if you think this is ridiculous, if Trump gets reelected, oh boy, you will see ridiculous on steroids. So look at this. Pay attention what the right-wing media is spinning. This idea that, I could not believe my eyes and ears as I watched these people say, we should have this. We shouldn't get to see this stuff. It's best when it's behind closed doors because we can really get in and get to the meat and potatoes of things. We can, really? So the question I have is, do you buy it? And can you look at them with a straight face? That's what I want to know. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I got a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Back after this. Stick around.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425. Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I got to tell you, the Pope, I like this Pope. I like him a lot. Now, granted, as a broken Catholic, I don't go anywhere near the Catholic Church anymore, but this Pope gives me hope. He's quoted saying that Christianity in America is just a money-making scheme. He's slamming, American Christians for basically turning their religion into a cash cow and an ideological circus. And it's what it's become. It really is. And look, this isn't new. You may remember back in August, the Pope said that conservative U.S. Catholics have replaced faith with ideology. It's what they believe is in the book, not what's actually there. So very, very interesting times. Let's quick go to the phones. I got Steve on line 1 from Chicago. Steve, what's on your mind, brother?
Well, a couple of things, and I do think it's interesting that this Pope would offer up that kind of commentary. And keep in mind, this is a time when in Europe and in America and many other parts of the developed world, religion is on the decline significantly. The number of people who are actually going to church differs from those who proclaim themselves as having a belief in a higher power, which obviously does nothing for the bottom line for churches.
Yep.
Okay, you believe in God, but if you're not showing up or giving, then that doesn't do us much good. And the reality is that the Catholic Church is particularly in trouble with regard to faith because, obviously, very few people in terms of younger generations, if you're a man, is willing to embrace the idea of, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to get married, I'm not going to be able to have children, and I want to become a priest. Well, people aren't willing to make that sacrifice, and now the Catholic Church actually sees itself taking in priests who were married before they became priests, and now they're ordained as having been married, and that's fine with the church, something that was unheard of just a few decades ago. But the church is desperate. They have congregations without priests, so you need to sort of bend. And I was raised. I'm a non-believer, but I was raised in the Eastern Christian faith, the Greek, Russian, Serbian Orthodox faith, and we were part of the same church until what's called the Great Schism, in which East and West the church divided. But for us, we never prohibited priests from being married or having children. And the reason that the Catholic Church did was because, it's not like today where everything's connected and you can know with a few keystrokes exactly how much money a church took in outer Mongolia in a given week or month. So the church basically said, you know what, we don't want priests getting married because when it comes time to pass on whatever property or legacy that exists within that church, they will give it to their children and their wives. So the Catholic Church, created this nonsense that, oh no, you're married to the church, and you don't take a wife and you don't have children. It was about the bottom line the entire time, because there are a lot of Christians who are still around who never adopted that philosophy. That was just something made up out of whole cloth, and a lot of Catholics believe that it's something that originated in the original Christian church, and no, that came along much later. So that's point one. And two, and you're absolutely right with regard to this whole question of why the Republicans don't want to have public hearings. You want public hearings when you have something that you can actually nail somebody on. What they want is this just to continue to be something that they can beat to death, claiming that, well, as soon as we get him up there, we'll break him and everything will be exposed and revealed and so forth. They don't have anything. They know they don't have anything.
Yeah, but even at that, Steve.
Obviously.
But even at that, why not do that in public? Why this want behind closed doors? This has never been something they've ever wanted before.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, they know they don't have anything, so it's going to happen behind closed doors. And like I said, what you want is a giant campaign commercial. If you can really nail somebody, then yeah, you want the whole world to see it. So, like you said, they're all on the same page with regard to this because, for obvious reasons. If you don't have anything, then you're going to look like an idiot. Some mainstream voters are going to look out there and say, wait a minute, you people have been promising us the beef for years on this, and this is what you came up with?
You got zip.
So...
But look here,
yeah,
Steve. Steve,
I
I understand the politicians wanting this. I don't understand the outrage machine saying, we're okay with you hiding behind closed doors. These are people who need the daily outrage. And today's outrage was going, they refuse to do this behind closed doors. That's insane to me. That's the insane part.
Well, yeah, and let's keep in mind, depending upon who you're talking about, there's very little distinction between, the sort of right wing in this country and some things like Fox and One American News and Newsmax and so forth. So they have to be on the same page. It's not as if I would say, like, for instance, your show and others like it. You're not some sort of paid mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. You don't take your marching orders from them. You would never do that. But for the Republican Party, it's increasingly the case that they're just, you have to be in lockstep. You're part of the team. And if you're not interested in being part of the team, then you have no access. You're not going to get any interviews. You're not going to be part of the whole process. So you have to be, in lockstep with the party and with the party line. So, yeah, I'm not at all surprised.
And with the moneyed interest.
There are people.
Let's not forget the moneyed interest. Let's not forget the people who pay their salaries. I think I confused him. Did I lose Steve? I think I lost Steve. Well, I appreciate the call, Steve. Thanks so much. Let's move on to Jack in Wisconsin on line 2. Jack, how are we doing today, buddy? Uh-oh. Did I lose Jack, too? Jack, you there? Uh-oh. That isn't good. I guess we lost Jack. No, and this is again one of these things where my mind goes to this place where you go. Remember, these are the people who they want the news, and yet it's okay. Don't worry. They'll take care of it behind closed doors. Now, the Catholic thing. I grew up Catholic. One of the reasons that we left, one of the reasons I call myself a broken Catholic, is because I grew up in poverty. We didn't have, there were months, there was no food in the house. The mice were going, hey, where's the food? And what would happen is on Monday, the church would call and say, hey, we got this envelope in the collection plate. There's no money in it. There's not a dime in the collection plate. And, we would go, hey, there's no money in the house. And they would call every Monday, knowing that we were in this situation, knowing that we were struggling. And this is what they would do. And it's part of the reason that, look, I don't play into it. And that's part of the reason that we left. And it's because it's that greed factor, and I just refused to do it. Let's see who's on line 1. I got Jack in Wisconsin on line 1. Jack, how are we doing today?
Just peachy keen, except it's gone from summer to winter here in about 36 hours.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's been good. I just had a kind of an observation. The Republicans not wanting to have people listen in on these hearings. I mean, we've seen this in Wisconsin again and again, where the Republicans hold a closed-door so-called hearing, and they only invite certain people that are going to be speaking on a subject in a certain way. It's just part of their method of trying to engender, hate and fear and anger into their cultus. The latest thing in Wisconsin is they're trying to get a bill through our legislature where every library supported by public funds is required to report to the parents what library books specifically their child is taking out of the library if they're under 16 years of age. And again, this is just a matter of they're trying to they're trying to intimidate people from checking out certain kinds of books. They're trying to limit people's information. This is very typical. My question is this, though. When do you think, because it's got to be exhausting, constantly feeling this hate and this anger and this fear, it's just got to be exhausting to their cult and to the so-called right-leaning independents. When do you think it's going to be so exhausting they're just going to say, I give up. I'm not even going to bother. Not just, I'm not going to vote for anybody that keeps on pushing this kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't see that stopping. Fear is an incredible motivator, and they're great at playing the fear card because the others are coming for your stuff, Jack. The others are coming for your children. The others, and that fear of the others is an incredible motivator. It's just scary stuff. But I appreciate the call, Jack. Thanks. Let's move along to Alice on line 3. Alice, what's on your mind here?
Well, you got phone gremlins for one thing.
Okay.
Are you still? Hello?
Go ahead. What's on your mind?
What I wanted to say was, well, what I'm thinking is, why do they want it behind closed doors? Couple of reasons. number one, they don't want at the base to hear, I'm sure Hunter Biden's going to be in attack mode. And second of all, it's so much easier to twist things that are said when it's behind closed doors. So much easier to twist it.
Absolutely.
And exactly. And finally, what I wanted to say was, the Pope is certainly not lying about American Christianity. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Alice. Let's go back to Steve real quick with about 15 seconds. Steve, what's on your mind, buddy?
Yes, just wanted to close with this. I do think one of the other big stories today, Americans for Prosperity endorsing Nikki Haley. I do think it says a great deal about where the business interests lie in this country, and it's not with Donald Trump. It's very hard to do business in a society mired in civil war, and that's not what a lot of the big business interests in this country want.
No, I'm right there with you. Appreciate it, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Look, the Koch folks, they're all behind Haley. So it'll be interesting. There's a lot of money there. A lot of money there. Gotta take a quick break. Right back. Stick around. You listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1953. That was the day 400 photo engravers at 6 New York City newspapers walked off the job. Members of the AFL's International Photo Engravers Union had just voted down arbitration. All but one local newspaper, the New York Herald Tribune, were idled as 20,000 newspaper workers refused to cross the engravers' picket lines. 6 days into the strike, that newspaper suspended operations as well. Writers at the New Yorker magazine remarked they were, quote, curled up with the Wall Street Journal, the Daily Worker, and a 2-day-old copy of Le Prince. In the decades before digital images, photo engraving was a labor-intensive process. Highly skilled workers made metal plates from which newspaper images were printed. Photo engravers had been working without a contract since the end of October. They demanded a $15 a week raise. The Newspaper Association was only willing to grant $3.75. The other newspaper unions had been offered similar wage and benefit packages far below their demands. They knew that whatever they won or lost depended on the victory of the photo engravers strike. So they walked out in solidarity. Federal mediators intervened in an attempt to settle the strike. Hysteric newspaper editors across the country shrieked that the union had accomplished what the government would never dare do: subvert the freedom of the press. They sulked that the strike had broken 35 years of industrial harmony and peace, adding that the ungrateful workers didn't appreciate just how good they had it. After 11 days, members voted to end the walkout and let a fact-finding board solve the dispute. 3 months later, the board upheld the Newspaper Association's original offer of $3.75 a week plus benefits. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
Growing up, I absorbed a lot of values from my old Texas daddy. A strong commitment to the common good, a healthy work ethic, and a lively sense of humor. But one thing about him I've rejected: his determination to have a perfect yard of thick, verdant St. Augustine grass. Lord, how he worked at it, laying sod, watering, fertilizing, watering, weeding, watering, spreading pesticides, watering, mowing, more watering. But it was too hot, too dry, too infested with blight, bugs, slugs, and such. He was up against Texas nature, and he just couldn't win. So I've gone in the opposite direction, slowly nurturing a natural yard of native trees, drought-tolerant plants, and a general live-with-nature ethic in my little landscape. I'm hardly alone in this rejection of the uniform green grass imperative. A spontaneous yard rebellion is taking hold across our country as more and more households, neighborhoods, businesses, etc. shift to a nature-friendly approach. A particularly encouraging push for change is coming from school kids, elementary level through college, who are appalled by the poisoning of our globe and organizing locally to do something that both makes a difference and makes a statement. One exemplary channel for their activism is a student movement called Rewild Your Campus. Of course, some people consider wild yards to be scruffy, ugly, unruly. That's their choice, but some also insist that tidy grass lawns must be everyone's choice. So they proclaim themselves to be the yard police, demanding that cities and homeowner associations make green grass uniformity the law. They filed busybody lawsuits and run right-wing social media campaigns targeting people and groups that disobey. This is Jim Hightower saying, these attacks are silly because they are silly, and also because they're attacking the future. To work for yard sanity and choice, go to rewild.org.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So one of the things I'm very happy about is in the last election, at least in my backyard, the misery maniacs for moms, you know, the Moms for Liberty group locally, they got beaten. And I got to tell you, I was sweating it out because they had some crazy ideas and some crazy thoughts of what they wanted to do with my kids' local public schools. And look, all across Pennsylvania, the Yaz money, the billionaire money didn't go very far this time. But trust me, they're not going anywhere. And here to share some thoughts on the election cycle and maybe where things are heading, I've asked Randy Wainwright to come talk with us. Randy is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, AFT. Randy, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you, Rick. And I'm so glad that the election in your backyard went very much like the elections all throughout the country. So it was a good news day this first Tuesday in November, or this election day in November.
No, but I look at this and, you know, this gives me some hope. I got to tell you, I was a little concerned, a little down, because all you keep hearing are these attacks, the right-wing media machine. All they were talking about is the most obscene, the most outrageous stuff to get people all lathered up and all angry so that they would go out and vote for these extreme people. And fortunately, the voters didn't allow it. So for me, it gives me a little bit of hope.
Well, I think what's happened is that there is a group of extremists. They're mostly, when it comes to schools, they're mostly in the right wing. I wouldn't actually even call them conservative, because what they're dedicated to is ending public education as we know it. And Rufo, you and I have spoken about this. Rufo, who's one of their acolytes, you know, made sure that he told us, which was that in order to get to universal vouchers, which essentially means destruction of public education as, you know, an institution for all kids, you have to create universal public school distrust. And that's what these groups that these extremists like Yaz have funded, are trying to do. Yeah. And this time, you know, as I think what has happened is, as we get farther away from COVID, even though there's still lots of issues that resulted from COVID that schools have to deal with, that parents are dealing with, that kids are dealing with, that teachers are dealing with. But as we get farther away, what you're seeing is that parents want us to be dealing with loneliness and learning loss and absenteeism and dysregulate, you know, and the disconnectedness, and they don't want us dealing with book banning or censorship of coursework or anything that undermines the education and the opportunity that their kids should be getting. Yeah. And I think that you saw that in these elections, that even though the other side had a lot of money, Yaz, for example, put a lot of money into these extremist groups like Moms for Liberty and others, and people came out and voted for the pro-public education candidates.
Now, again, as I said at the beginning, they're not going to stop. The money will not stop flowing because, as you've pointed out, the goal is eventually to destroy public education, privatize and profitize Education Incorporated. And everywhere you look, there are these attacks. And you brought up absenteeism. There was an article that I saw that, you know, that grabbed my attention that said, look, you know, American public schools are on their last legs. The portion of students attending a school with chronic absenteeism has doubled since pre-pandemic times. And they go through saying, you know, teachers are looking around and nobody's in the classroom. They're painting this dire picture. Is that what you're seeing in the classroom? Is nobody showing up? Is it as bad as being painted?
No, of course not. But that's what sells papers. But what is happening is this. What COVID did do is it told a generation of kids, because of the mishandling of COVID in this country and the lack of prioritization of schooling in this country, schools were closed for an awful long time. Now, I want to actually say, as carefully as I can, that some of us from April 2020, and Rick, I was on your show a lot, you heard me say it, some of us understood that closing schools for in-person learning was a problem. And from April 2020, I tried to figure out how to reopen them with the caveat that they had to be reopened safely, that
Right.
we had to deal with the pandemic. But,
See, but you don't hear that. If I can stop you don't hear this when you listen to the F channel of the right wingers. Randy Weingarten shut down all the schools.
Right, and frankly, I wish I had 1/1000th of the power they attribute to me. I would assume that I would do a far better job. But I'm not in charge of any school system, and the school systems that I actually work with the most of them were open, far, pretty early on. Having said that, they, from April 2020, we understood that we needed to reopen schools for in-person learning and do it safely to make sure that teachers and kids and their families were as safe as humanly possible. But what I'm saying is that that act, even in places that stayed closed for 3 months or 4 months, March, April, May, June, what happened is that kids lost the sense, and families lost the sense that this was absolutely imperative to go to school in person. And I think that we are suffering from that, and I think that's why you're seeing so much absenteeism. The solution for that is the solution that we should have been doing for schools all the time, which is we need to make schooling important to kids. It needs to be fun. It needs to be engaging. It needs to be relevant. It needs to be practical. Kids need to say, get up in the morning and say, that's where I want to be. And frankly, in a period of time of so much dissonance everywhere, we need to make sure that kids have a safe and welcoming environment and a well-rounded education. So the way to solve the issues of absenteeism is the way that we should be doing schooling anyway, which is making schools, public schools, places where parents want to send their kids, educators want to work, and kids are really engaged.
Yeah, but I go back to now look, it's been years since I've been in school. You didn't have a choice. There was a truant officer. There was someone who came to your house and drug you if they had to. So for me, this idea that there's an option, this to me is a struggle. I mean, because like my kids, they know that they don't have a choice. They got to get up every morning and they got to drag themselves to school, and they better learn something because this is their one shot at an education. This is their one opportunity to use this time wisely and the best that they can. And I can't understand parents who don't push that kind of a mentality.
Well, I think, I want to give a little bit of grace to parents in America right now. There's a lot of stuff, particularly in a climate of so much divisiveness and so much fear.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's tough. But what I'm seeing more and more this year in particular is that school is center of community, and school is a place that parents and kids see as really important. 90% of kids in America still go to public schools. And, so we're seeing an increase in homeschooling. We're seeing an increase in absenteeism. These are, we need to understand what is going on and how to address issues. That's why I keep saying, let's address the loneliness. Let's address disconnection. Let's address issues like learning loss. Let's address issues like gun violence in schools. Let's address all of these kinds of things. And frankly, when we do this, you're going to see more and more kids going to public schools, even though you're already seeing it, the attendance rates, or you're certainly seeing the enrollment rates tick up again.
You guys have been running this campaign, Real Solutions for Kids in Communities, and a part of that is, as I understand, making it the center of the community. When I was a kid, look, you used to go on off hours and get to play in the gym and play basketball. In the summers, when I was a kid, it was a place where you got a hot lunch before Reagan destroyed that program. It was that place where you got services and help and all kinds of things. It was that glue that held even the poorest community like I grew up in. It's what held things together. Now most schools, sadly, they lock the doors and it's like an armed camp at this point, and it's not that kind of welcoming, open place that I want it to be.
Look, I think that there's that there's lots of issues around the environment and what's happening in America right now. Every single issue ends up at the school doorstep. And what we're saying is, instead of fighting about it, let's solve these problems, because schools are centers of community, and let's make sure we prepare kids for today and tomorrow. That's our obligation, and teachers should be supported in doing that work, and that's really important.
Yeah.
And we need the resources and we need the support. But that's why we're focused on, in terms of this Real Solutions campaign, what are the major issues that are challenges. Literacy is a real challenge. That's why we're giving out books to help kids become confident readers, but we're also helping teachers understand the science of reading so that they can help kids with all issues and challenges around literacy. But that's also, to your point about food security, that's why lots of states are basically saying, stop with the lunch shaming, and let's make sure we have vital breakfast and lunches for kids all the time, without question. And frankly, what we're seeing the Republicans do in the Congress is, as they're cutting the issues, they're cutting SNAP and nutrition issues, states are building it up. But that's what we're talking about community schools and wraparound services. Let's make sure it's there so we level the playing field for kids. I mean, Rosalind Carter, her funeral was today. Think about what she did in trying to help make sure that kids have a real opportunity and a chance for success. But in addition to community schools and wraparound services and making sure we address mental health concerns and loneliness concerns and taking on the social media companies and their algorithm, the thing that I'm most excited about our campaign is this point about experiential learning and hands-on learning. Yep. In a period of time of AI and application and needing to apply knowledge and critically think and discern fact from fiction, we have to give kids the skills to do that. That's not about memorization. That's about application. So let's have more experiential learning. This is what private schools do all the time. Why are we not doing it in public schools? And let me tell you one thing. When we do this, like in career tech ed, kids come to school, they graduate on time, and they have lots of options in terms of college and career. So let's do more career tech ed. Let's do more advanced manufacturing. Let's make, do more healthcare work in high schools. Let's make sure we really give kids the skills and knowledge and opportunity to, so they're prepared for life, for civics, for career, for college. And so as others smear and as others, basically throw obstacle after obstacle at us, what the AFT is doing and what teachers do in classrooms every single day is try to make school a place that kids want to be and a place that's compelling and interesting and where we help create opportunity.
There you go. I got to get your thoughts on this Pioneer Institute, push that they're making. And again, the Pioneer Institute, one of these right-wing free market think tanks, whose solution to everything is privatize and profitize. But they're out running around asking the question, why are public schools quashing civics and history? Are you guys doing that? Are you deliberately saying we're not going to teach kids civics and history? Because according to them, only fewer than half of the people can name the three branches of government. A quarter of the people can't name any branch of government. They've got some statistics that are fairly frightening. Are you the guys who are quashing civics and history?
You mean, Rick, you're saying that to a social studies teacher who loves teaching civics and history? Let me actually answer it this way. No Child Left Behind, by creating an accountability system that was fixated on test scores in math and in English, was the first, was when we started seeing civics being squeezed out of the curriculum. And if you have, as we've had with all of these fights around censorship and whether or not you can teach current events and all of this, banning of books, what has happened is that teachers are chilled out of teaching about current events. You can't even teach about the elections. How do you teach civics if you can't actually teach about current events?
Yeah, and then this comes back to where we started, though, with these maniac moms for misery groups who are out there, trying to armchair teach.
Exactly. So you can't. So when somebody says the kids don't know the separation of powers, it's not about memorization of, this is the presidency and this is the Congress and this is the Supreme Court. How are you going to know about the Supreme Court if you can't actually teach, what happened in the Dobbs decision in high school, how or what happens in any other decision? And so what's happened is that these groups are speaking out of both sides of their mouth. This civics is not about memorization. Civics is about application. And you have to teach kids how to think, which means that controversial topics sometimes, things that are conflictual, you have to teach. And they don't want us to do that. And that's, so you can't say to a teacher, don't teach a divisive concept. Slavery is a divisive concept. Don't teach a divisive concept and then complain later on that we're not teaching civics. Come on.
Yeah. Lastly, before I let you go, obviously, as you brought up earlier, today was the funeral of former First Lady Rosalind Carter. Any thoughts on her passing, on her life? Any thoughts?
Look, today was, what obviously was not there, but in watching the pictures and in listening to the speeches, the fact that all those first ladies were there, everyone who's alive was there, was an amazing tribute to her, including, I was glad to see Melania Trump there. It was just an amazing tribute. And first ladies play a really important role in this country. And you see that with the role that Joe Biden is playing. They are helping heal the soul of the country. And Rosalind Carter was a first lady extraordinaire, and she really worked to ensure deep humanism in this country. And I think I'm glad that she and President Carter have, over the last 2 decades or so, really gotten their due for the amazing patriots that they are.
Yeah, we need more Carters, most certainly. Randy, I appreciate you taking some time for us. As always, thanks so much.
Thank you, Rick. Take care.
Randy Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers. I want to hear your thoughts. How are things in your school district? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Right back after this. Stick around. You listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor. A temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is set to end today after being extended for 2 days. Raf Sanchez with more from Tel Aviv.
We are still expecting to see another 10 hostages coming out of Gaza in the next couple of hours. But right now, there is no agreement for that deal to extend into tomorrow.
The Prime Minister of Israel says his country will continue fighting after the ceasefire deal with Hamas ends. In a speech, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the release of dozens of hostages held by Hamas a great achievement, but added his answer is
very well. But he's got this piece, about Chris Sununu, and it's titled "Chris Sununu and the Good Republicans' Noble Lie," and it's basically Sununu trying to play the role of the, as Last puts it, the certified good Republican. And look, he had some things that weren't overly glowing about Trump, and trying to play middle of the road, saying, hey, he's not going to be the nominee, that's not going to happen, and look, Trump was at 45% back then, and it's gotten worse. So now he's come out and he is saying, well, he's weighed the options, he's done his research. And now he's come up with, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. And here's the thing, and this is where my mind goes to this place, because Jonathan Last says there are only 3 explanations for this about face, for Sununu, falling in the line, if you will. 1, he's stupid. 2, underwent a genuine wholesale reevaluation, had just, he grew to love Donald, or Sununu was lying about what he really thought. And you go, well, yeah, and he's right. Look, 3 is probably the most plausible. But I never bought any of that from the beginning. And this is where you go, they've told us who they are. Why do we keep falling for it? Why do we keep being Lucy'd? Lucy pulls the football away every time. There is no scenario where Charlie Brown gets to kick the ball. Doesn't happen. But here we are, again in this moment, where I guess it is what it is. And I guess, are we surprised by it? The answer, not so much. Got about a minute to go. We got Ronathan on line 1 from Cincinnati. Ronathan, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. What's on your mind, brother? Quick.
Well, just real quick, I wanted to say I'm a long-time viewer, and you're a real sexy man. I lifted up my...
Thank you, Ronathan. I always like a good compliment. That hasn't happened in a while. Thank you so much. I appreciate. I'm always willing to take a compliment when one is thrown my way. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back.
We must reverse course.
UN Secretary General warns world is far off track to avoid catastrophic warming. Annual UN climate conference COP28 gets underway in oil-rich Dubai. Plus, International Energy Agency warns fossil fuel industry faces a reckoning.
All of those reckonings and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
We're simply inflating the lifeboats while breaking the horse.
Breaking the horse?
Oars. He was talking about oars. Lifeboat, oars.
Well, at least we're not breaking the horse. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, no wonder they never get anything done at these climate conferences. Nobody can understand what the UN Secretary General is actually saying.
Well, not true. Most people understand.
Sure. Well, we're back. What do you got for us today?
Well, first, while we were out, a global temperature milestone. On Friday, November 17, for the first time since record-keeping began in the mid-1800s, the planet's average air temperature hit 2 degrees Celsius warmer than pre-industrial levels.
Uh-oh.
That's according to Europe's climate service. It's an indicator of just how quickly the planet is warming. But climate scientists say we have not passed the 2 degrees Celsius target in the Paris Climate Agreement, which is defined by staying above 2 degrees Celsius for many years on end.
So we went above 2 degrees, but just for a day, so there's still time to roll it all back.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Currently, humanity's use of fossil fuels has warmed the planet 1.2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. But that is little comfort. The United Nations 2023 Emissions Gap Report covers the gap between countries' pledges to cut their fossil fuel emissions versus what's actually required to meet the Paris targets. If every country achieves their targets, the planet is on track to heat up by nearly 3 degrees Celsius by the end of this century.
That's if they meet the targets?
Yes.
Oh.
Scientists say warming on that scale would push planetary systems past a number of catastrophic tipping points, like the collapse of polar ice sheets and the potential shutdown of vital ocean currents.
I'm starting to think we're in big, big trouble.
A different report from the International Cryosphere Climate Initiative warns that global warming of 2 degrees Celsius would trigger catastrophic ice loss with
KCAA Loma Linda. The Legacy KCAA 1050 AM.